So Zach, I got to tell you about a kind of random purchase that I made this week and ended up spending way more money than I had intended to, but I'm pretty happy with my purchase still.
I am afraid to ask questions, Gabe.
So this week I was at an event with some colleagues, and one of them was wearing this hat that was really nice. I was like, ooh, that's a cool hat. So I started asking him about the company, and I felt like it was just a perfect example of marketing done right, where this person ended up becoming an avatar for this company, and they did not have to advertise me at all because he sold me on the hat. So the name of the hat it's this company called Melon, and which is a great name for a hat company because you put it on your melon, right? So it's perfect. But the one part of the hat that I thought was super cool is it has a additional cover on the inside of the hat that prevents sweat from showing up on the outside of your hat. And I have kind of a sweaty head, especially during the summertime when I'm walking around and doing stuff. So I thought that was such a cool feature. And because of that and some other things, I ended up buying one of these hats. And do you want to know, should I tell you how much it is? It was kind of ridiculous.
I want to know. I don't think I've ever bought a hat. I have a ton of hats, like Nike hats I've gotten from different events, but I've never bought a hat. So I don't even know what the price would be.
Well, normally hat purchase be like $25-$30, right? It's not a crazy expensive thing. This hat was $70. And by the time I got to tax and shipping and all that, it was like $85. And I bought it, and I kind of immediately had buyer's remorse. And then it showed up at my house. It was actually here when I got back from travel this week, and I put it on, and all of that buyer's remorse just totally went away because it is an extremely dope hat.
Hey, Gabe, people like to buy from people.
Exactly.
I've been in the same situation, not with hats, but I love hearing it.
Yeah, it was just a perfect. We talk about net promoter scores and your customers being your best advocates and things like that all the time. And this was such a perfect example of that actually playing out in real life, where saw it, started talking to my colleague Ross about it, and I was like, well, now I need to buy one of these things. And that company spent $0 marketing to me. So my customer lifetime value is through the roof because they spent $0 marketing to me, and I'm now a big fan, and I probably will end up buying another one of these at some point too.
Oh man, that social proof, that brand advocate, I love that.
I have to say another cool thing that they did was there was a really nice handwritten note that was in the box that came with the hat from the founders of the company, thank you so much. We built this company to do this, this, and this. And, whether it was an actual handwritten note, I do not know, probably not, but it looked very much like a handwritten note. But that personal aspect of it I thought was quite good. And on the flip side of that little card, you'll love this, they had a QR code, scan a QR code if you needed to return or exchange, which I thought was a nice feature. And then they also had a couple of other QR codes that went to specific parts of their website. So really nice job by them. I was very impressed with the entire kind of end-to-end purchase process.
I just love the QR code. I think that's still the best comeback of recent years, but it sounds like the entire experience was fantastic, Gabe. And now you've got this $80 hat, and we won't tell anyone about the price outside of the podcast.
I'm certainly not telling my wife. That's for sure.
I was gonna say, does she know? But I can't wait to see this hat. You have to wear it.
I'm gonna have to wear it. I should have worn it today just for this story, but it came yesterday. I put it on. She's like, "Oh, that's a nice looking hat," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm totally not gonna tell you how much I spent on this, but thanks." Anyway,
I love that. Right. Well, Gabe, speaking of buying moderately expensive hats,
yes. So I don't know that that's a perfect transition into our topic today, but today we wanted to talk about, I guess it sort of works, purchasing and why people purchase and how people purchase, and specifically around the topic of CRO, or conversion rate optimization. And I think this is a really important topic that we've talked about website stuff in the past, Zach, but I think it's an area that we can definitely drill into a little bit further today and hopefully give people a little bit of a better understanding of how they can look at the conversion rates that are happening on their website and just throw around some ideas around how to improve those. Any other things to top up there that I might have missed?
I think you got it, Gabe. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah, sounds good. So just to level set around what conversion rate optimization is, it's really just making your website convert better. And when we talk conversions, I think a really important topic around here is conversions. Ultimately, we would love that to be a purchase, much like I went and purchased said hat, but it doesn't have to be a purchase. It's any action that you want your customer to take. It could be filling out a form. It could be providing an email address. Zach, could be quizzes or things like that. Just anything around that digital experience. What are some other ideas that you have around, different ways that people can, drive specific actions, or what those actions could be when we talk about CRO?
I feel like those are the big ones. And we kind of alluded to this in a previous episode, but I think it was the one we were talking about mattresses and landing pages. But you can also gamify that digital experience. So one popular example of conversions is providing a gift of some kind. So often those discount codes, you click the wheel, it spins, you get 33% off. I see this at Bed Bath & Beyond all the time. I don't know if they still do that, but that's, I'm just your average adult buying Bed Bath & Beyond supplies. But I see it all the time there. You click, you get this discount code. And then to get the code, you have to put your email in, of course, right? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, they're trying to get people into that sales funnel. Now you have this great discount code.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great way to sort of juice your CRO, so to speak, right? Is by, like you said, gamifying it, offering some sort of discount to get that information. Now, I would argue in that scenario, you really want to understand what that discount is that you're giving and how it's impacting the overall lifetime value of what it is that customer is purchasing, because there's probably a balance there, right? I mean, ultimately, this all comes down to dollars. So, there's probably that balance of, am I juicing my CRO so enough to offset the discount that I'm offering as part of that overall purchase?
Did we
There's
just
a really
talk about
nerdy
this,
way
Gabe?
to think about this.
I feel like we just talked about this 10 minutes ago in a totally separate conversation. But with that Bed Bath & Beyond example, you also mentioned downloading a white paper, sign up from things like that. Yeah. I feel like we kind of glossed over the fact that when you do this, whether you're the consumer or maybe you're the one, offering this on your website, you also get that first party data we talked about a few episodes. So now you have an email address you can market to. So in the case of Bed Bath & Beyond, I've shopped there as a repeat customer. They likely knew this, but now I'm back on their email list with this. Yep.
Yeah, it's a great point. And yeah, we're going to talk about kind of I would say mostly B2C discussions today, but certainly this is something that B2B marketers are all over as well. It's the white paper, it's the, click here to sign up for a webinar, whatever it may be, right? There's some action we want people to take, and how do we improve that versus some sort of baseline? And that's probably a good transition to kind of what that baseline is and what we should be expecting. So I wanted to talk really quickly just around how CRO or that actual conversion rate is calculated. So it's calculated based on dividing the number of conversions, so whatever action that is that you want people to take, enter an email address, make a purchase, whatever, by the total number of visitors that have actually come to your site. So if it's 100 visitors and one person takes an action, then your conversion rate is 1%, just in a very simple example. So you take that, divide it into the total number of visitors, multiply it by 100 to get it into a rate. And I was kind of surprised by this number, Zach, but the average conversion rate on US websites is basically 2.5%. That felt, in like some ways I feel like that's crazy high, and in some ways I feel like that's crazy low. It just, I guess I could see it being surprising in either direction.
I saw that 2.6%, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, right? I think of like my own like buying and consumer behaviors as well, and then I think of everyone else I know in the rest of the country, and 2.6%. I'm gonna have to think about that one for a while.
Well, and I think it probably depends on what conversion you're defining too. If you were talking about the example of entering an email address after some sort of promotional discount, I would imagine the conversion rates on that are much, much higher. They're probably 20 or 30%. But, when you're talking about actually making a purchase and how many people are coming to your website and buying something, that's a much larger action. So I would imagine the conversion rates are quite a bit lower in that scenario.
I think that's spot on too. It's going to depend on that channel. To be honest, you know how many discount codes I have that I have not used from this same system we just talked about? A ton. There's a lot out there, but then you throw something like Crumble in, it's 100% conversion rate for me. But
or Gabe's hat purchases, which are apparently 100% conversion rate.
Yeah, but, zero cost of acquisition there. But I think that's it's an interesting number, that 2.6%. And I would love to see if we could break that down by channel and look at the different. We talked about a few tactics. I'd love to see how that changes across each as we get people into that buying funnel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I looked around for some data before this podcast just to see if there was any additional information around kind of that breakdown around the specific action. I couldn't find a whole lot, but that 2.6% is, I think, a good kind of barometer for people to think about, as they're looking to drive people through the purchase funnel. And so, speaking of purchases, so why is this important? I think it's a really important dial that you can turn to drive incremental revenue. Zach, I was thinking about this in a sort of a broadband service provider example, since that's the industry that you and I both work in, and we talk to internet service providers a lot every day for our regular jobs. So if you had 1,000 visitors to your website, as an example, and they were converting at a 2% rate, and your customer lifetime value was about $5,000, which is, I think, pretty average for a lot of internet service providers. If you were to increase that from 2% to 2.5%, that means that 5 more customers are converting on a monthly basis, with, again, that average of roughly 1,000 visitors a month. That's $25,000 in incremental customer lifetime value that you've been able to drive just from converting 5 more people. So the impact that you can have here is massive, and that's what I think is so interesting, is that these relatively small changes in conversion rates can have really outsized impact on overall financial performance.
That's a huge impact. I mean, who doesn't want another $25,000 in customer lifetime value?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive number, and I think it just, again, speaks to why CRO is such an important metric, and one that I think a lot of folks don't look at probably enough. There's so much traffic coming to these websites, and again, how much of these are actually converting all the way through. It's a pretty small percentage. So, how do we improve that? And that actually leads us nicely into ways to improve CRO, which we wanted to talk about today, Zach. So, you mind kicking us off on this topic of how we think about ways to improve conversion rate optimization and drive more people through to purchase?
You bet. I've got a lot of thoughts here, but I think number one here, Gabe, is you've got to define your objective. And I feel like this is probably something that's true in everything we do in marketing, right? Like, we don't just run campaigns or tackle different initiatives for the fun of it, right? We always have an objective, right? So when it comes to conversions, what's your goal here?
Yeah, exactly. Is it to just get more email addresses? Is it to, Zach, you talked about the mattress example earlier. I certainly had the exact same situation when I've told this story before. When I was going through to purchase a mattress a couple of months ago, I ended up on like 5 different websites of popular mattress brands. I did exactly what you did, enter my email address to see what kind of discount I can get. So my conversion rates were high from an email perspective, from me providing them my email address, but I only ended up purchasing from one of those companies. So define that objective. Is it, I just want to get the email address because I want to retarget this person later, or is it I want them to actually make a purchase? And defining that objective becomes super important.
It's actually funny, Gabe. I didn't tell you this full story, but after that episode and doing all like the Bed Bath & Beyond research on I can't remember, was that zero party data, or I think that was a different episode now. But I keep getting mattress ads.
We've done so many, Zach, we can't keep them all straight at this point.
I know, but I keep getting mattress ads. But I don't think I told you where I'm getting the ads. And it's conveniently the same time when I'm scrolling Reddit late at night trying to go to bed. It's always on Reddit. So I meant to share that with you as well.
That's funny. We talked about the fact that mattress companies actually have gotten smart about running ads late at night or in the middle of the night when people are having trouble sleeping, which genius, right? It's when people are having that particular problem and they're probably spending less money because they're not fighting with a bunch of other companies to advertise in the middle of the night. So day part your ads, as Zach and I have talked about previously. But that's interesting that it's on Reddit. I wonder why it's being shown on that platform versus others.
That's the $1 million question. I do think Reddit is I don't want to say undervalued, but I think people often miss it as an advertising opportunity there. But again, we've talked about A and B testing, and we'll talk about that again later this episode. But it's a great platform to test. Maybe if you have a product or a service and you have an audience on Reddit.
Yeah,
but,
agreed.
Going on here, how to improve CRO. Big thing, and I feel like we talk about this, and so much of what we do, Gabe, is make it personal. And there's always a quote I hear, and it says, the best marketing happens when the person doesn't realize they're being marketed to. And I think this is a great example. We talked about the discounts, the coupons, loyalty programs, a chance to win something. So again, think of the wheel we spin on the website to, get something free, get a discount, or however they code those on the back end is anyone's question. But again, people just don't like to be marketed to in general. So when they don't realize it, that's a great opportunity for you.
They don't like to feel like they're being marketed to. That's the subtlety, right? It's not that we hate marketing. We sort of need it in a way to understand, what things we I guess desire. I don't know. That may be a weird way to say it, but and need may be a little bit of a stretch, but it's when they feel like they're being marketed to that it feels dirty, and that's what annoys people, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas if it's subtle and in line with what it is that they actually want. This gets back to personalization too, Zach. It's making sure that the ads are personalized in a way that actually speaks to the person, so it doesn't feel like an ad.
Absolutely. And the second part of this, Gabe, is wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't mention AI, but potentially using AI to personalize these messages as well. Yeah,
and that's I know Zach and I talk about this all the time, and probably way too much, but it's something that I don't think we can discuss enough. Frankly, is leveraging AI tools to personalize that. Whether it's leveraging it for data analytics to understand who your target market is, whether it's leveraging it to make sure that your creative and your copy aligns to what it is that you want that person to do. If you want to improve the conversion, wherever that on your website specifically, you need to make sure that the words and images and phrases that you're using are personalized to each one of the individual buyers that you're trying to sell to. And AI is a great way to do this. I mean, they're even, I think it's not it's Hume, I think is the product that I've heard of. Have you heard of this product, Zach?
I have not.
Okay. So it's an AI product that I've heard a couple of people talking about on other podcasts, but it basically is it's a product that AI solution that you would put on top of your website, and it allows somebody to speak to an AI, Hume in this case, and then it will personalize your interaction based on you actually just talking to the website. So if you come there and you're like, I don't know, using my hat thing as an example, I want a blue hat and I want it to, be this and blah, blah, blah. It'll actually go search through the website and find that stuff for you and surface it. And so it's almost like chatbot / personalization kind of built into one, basically, as sort of the way I would think about it. Mm-hmm. But you're speaking to it, not typing into it, speaking into it. And it can identify tone. It can identify if you're angry or upset or happy or whatever. So tools like that, and that may seem, like a little bit of a bridge too far or a step too far, but tools like that are going to allow you to really personalize at scale the interaction that your customers are having on your website, and allow you to, really increase the conversions with those types of applications.
I really love that example. I need to look into it a little bit deeper. I haven't heard of that until today. But when you mentioned the chatbot on the website, there was an example kind of right when ChatGPT became popular, and I won't mention brand names here, but it was put on an auto dealer website. This ChatGPT widget, it said powered by ChatGPT. However, since it was so new and it wasn't using organization data, this chatbot didn't know where it lived. So people would go to this website and they'd be interacting with it, and they'd be like, what kind of car can you recommend? And it kept recommending Tesla. Tesla was the number one seller. And this is a traditional combustion engine dealership, and it's recommending the competition. So we've
That's
really come a
hilarious.
long ways. But I mean, it goes back to, if you're going to use AI to personalize data, just make sure that either the model is trained on your business, or in this case, able to utilize your website to enhance the buyer experience.
That's the cool part about that particular solution is it's going to be trained on all of the content that exists on your website. And to get to, kind of go back to another conversation that we've had previously, this is why it's so important to have high quality content on your website, whether it's written, whether it's video, whatever it is. You need to make sure that that content exists, so that if you do deploy these types of AI applications on top of it, it actually has information to go train itself, on to provide that content back to your customers or potential customers.
Mm-hmm. Next on the list here, Gabe, I want to talk about, and this is actually funny because I just had this conversation a few days ago with a customer. Image quality, file types, video types was specifically the one I had, but anything you can do to improve a site's loading time. I don't know, Gabe, if you can think of a site off the top of your head, but I think we've all been in that situation where you go to a website and they've got something loading in the background, so you kind of see like a blank page. You can see stuff trying to load in, but that user experience is terrible. And half the time I'll just navigate away and look elsewhere. I don't want to deal with that bad experience.
Well, you're certainly not the only one, because I think the number is if it takes longer than like 2.5 seconds to load, people are just going to bounce, which is crazy. But our attention spans are quite short, and you're right. I mean, it almost seems like a vestige of the old. You might be too young to remember this, Zach, but there was a day where dial-up existed, where the websites actually would like chunk. It would be like chunks of content that would load as the page was coming up.
Didn't it just load instantly? Isn't that the way it's always worked?
No, it has not been. No, and when I was teenager and into my late teens, it would take forever. And you go to sites that'll still be like that sometimes, where they will take forever to load. It's a terrible experience, to your point, and people will bounce. That's what drives high bounce rates. So if you have a very high bounce rate, it's likely because your site is taking too long to load. And I figured you would have strong opinions about the image quality and compression types and file types and things like that, just because I know that's something that you care a lot about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things we can do here is, there was I don't know when this trend started, but there's a lot of websites have like the video background. And if you do it right, it looks very good. But if you do it wrong, it's a terrible experience. Mm-hmm. And then if you do different things like how-to videos or things of that nature as well, you can actually embed them, right? So you can have that YouTube or that Vimeo embed. That way the content isn't loaded directly on your CRM or your website, whatever you're using to manage your content. That will help load times as well. And as far as image quality goes, I would say this doesn't even apply just to websites, but think of social ads, digital ads as well. If the image isn't sized correctly, I'm not clicking on some shady looking ad, right? Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that whatever ad we either produce or we even click on looks like it comes from a reputable brand. It's sized correctly. It's not blurry. There's not text cut off. And these are all things we as marketers can do before our ads go live to make sure that experience on the consumer's end is flawless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I go back to something you mentioned there. The embed, I think, is a really good point, and it will help with site loading speed. And it's not hard now. If anything that's on YouTube, you can basically get the embed link, or the embed code, I should say, and copy and paste it over. Zach, you and I do the same thing with the Spotify videos that we load up onto the blog. It's just it's a little piece of code, and you go into Spotify and you can literally just copy and paste it over. So it's not like I have to be smart about coding. I can literally just copy and paste it over and it's done. So that's a really easy way to fix some of these potential issues around high bounce rates if you're seeing that on your website.
I agree. And Gabe, one of the next items here we have on improving CROs is all about A/B testing. You know how much I love this, and I always tell people, don't be afraid to test things out, because you don't know what you don't know, kind of thing, right? Like, you don't know what's going to be the best solution for your business unless you test it.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm going to cheat here, Zach, and I'm going to combine these kind of next two topics of A/B testing and landing pages just because I think they're really tied together. I see way too often people just driving traffic via ads back to their homepage.
I cringe a little bit when I hear that.
It happens a lot. I mean, I spend a fair amount of time in Facebook ads library, looking at ads for various things, and I still see that a lot where people are driving traffic back to their general homepage versus a specific landing page.
I am a huge believer in every campaign you run should have a unique landing page. Strong believer in that. And you may have like campaigns you could share a landing page on, but you should never be sending people to your products and services page. Never send them to your homepage. Every campaign you run has a specific headline and a specific call to action, I would imagine. Let's take that experience and bring it all the way into your website. Have a custom landing page for every campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we sort of forgot this one because it just seems so baseline. But to hit on this in the context of this conversation, the fewer clicks you're asking somebody to do, the higher your conversions are going to be. So if you've got to go to a homepage and then click on a couple of links to get to a specific portion of the website before you can take an action, the conversion rate is going to be significantly lower than if you just had a landing page with a specific strong call to action. So, again, it seems very baseline, less clicks. Obviously, you're going to drive higher CRO, but that's something that, again, you still see situations where people are asking someone to do multiple clicks to convert, to use my air quotes here, and that is a real great way to drive down your conversion rate, is to ask people to do multiple clicks. One
thing I'll add on the landing pages too is I feel like it makes it very easy to track your campaigns as well. Like if I send everyone to my homepage, we could potentially see if it's a Facebook ad, or where they're coming from or things like that. But when you send them to a specific landing page, you could track that conversion from that landing page all the way to throughout the buying process. So you can see how many people go to the page. If you use a tool like Clarity or Hotjar, I know how much we like Clarity here. You can see how they engage with not only that landing page, but perhaps your website as a whole. So there's so much on the website side you can do. But like I said, I'm a big fan of unique landing pages based on your campaign. One of the big things, Gabe, we've done in our industry, especially with broadband here, is, well, let's take the gaming example, right? If we build a campaign and we want gamers to upgrade, what good is it sending them to the home page? They've seen our home page, right?
It's a waste of dollars.
Absolutely. But now let's say we build a landing page, take a few minutes to build that landing page and customize it with gaming messaging, gaming pictures, gaming use cases. You have a whole page that's based on your existing products and services, but it's tailored to a gamer now. And that's then tied to your Facebook ad, your Google ad, your YouTube ad, wherever this ad needs to be with this gaming messaging. It goes back to the quote from the beginning around, oh man, I gotta think, there's been so many good quotes here, but people don't like to feel like they've been marketed to,
yes.
right? It just feels a lot more natural.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, there's that consistency of message. And I would say if you're, if you haven't been doing landing page pages and trying to improve your CRO that way, just do a test. Run this for a month, right? Instead of pushing ads back to a specific homepage, create a simple landing page with a very clear call to action of whatever it is that you want people to do. And for a month, just run your ads pushed at that page. And you'll have a really nice A/B comparison where you've got a big set of data that you've been, driving for all of the other traffic you've been driving people to, and then you'll have a nice set of data within a month of what people are doing from a conversion perspective on a landing page, and I think it'll give you a really good idea of how to improve that, and I think a lot of people would be surprised at how many more conversions they would be able to drive with that custom landing page versus just driving people back to a generic homepage.
And one last thing I want to add on landing pages, because a lot of times when people think of landing pages, they think, I've got to build a new page on my website. I have to have my developer build this, so on. Maybe, right? You could do it that way. Have a hidden page on your website. That's your landing page. But if you use a tool like MailChimp, HubSpot, I'm sure Constant Contact has this option as well. You can build landing pages directly on those platforms. So there's a lot of easy tools to build landing pages. Gabe, we've even looked at some external landing page tools in the past that have very nice designs.
Agreed.
And they all have that same goal to build and improve your conversions.
Yeah, it's such a great point. I think it's probably a huge reason why people don't do it is because it seems like a lot of work. And you're right, it could be a lot of work, but if you're just building out something simple, there are a lot of tools out there. What was it, Card? Is that the one we were kind of playing around with? I feel like there's another couple.
The designer in me loves that one. It's it's so good.
Yeah, that was a good one. It was very easy, like you said, lots of templates. And as you said, there's stuff built into MailChimp, there's stuff built into HubSpot. There's lots of other ways you can do this too that make it pretty straightforward. And then you're off and running. The other one I want to talk about, Zach, is, and I know this is one that's sort of near and dear to your heart as well, especially for buying on mobile, is checkout process. So if you are asking people to make a purchase online, you got to have a decent number of options there. We've talked about Apple Pay in the past, PayPal, obviously, Stripe. I mean, there's lots of different ways to integrate payments into your website. But I really feel like if you don't have at least PayPal, Apple Pay, like Google Pay, like what are we even doing here? It's such a necessity at this point, and it's also one where people expect it to happen very quickly. We have very short attention spans when it comes to actually purchasing something.
The Apple Pay example, I don't want to go down that hill because I'll talk about Apple Pay, Google Pay,
We've
Samsung
talked
Pay
about it
all day.
already. It's great.
It's the experience is unmatched, but it's actually funny because I can't think of, I don't know if it's Domino's or like Papa John's or where, but like if you buy pizza, there's like a PayPal option. And if you think about it, do you want to, no one uses cash, I'll just skip over that, but like, do you want to input every credit card number or, whatever, or do you just want to click like the pay with PayPal and, the single sign-on goes off and assume when you're logged in, it's a one-click purchase. Same with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay. It's, you click buy with Apple Pay, Face ID, scans your face, and you're done. It's a seamless process. And
I don't know how I purchased my $80 hat.
Apple Pay.
Yep, I was on my phone, went to the website, it had Apple Pay, clicked the thing, scanned my face, and it's getting shipped to my house, right? I mean, it's so easy.
And a good example of this, since we're talking about Apple, and I'll talk about Apple just because I have an iPhone, but when I bought my new iPhone last fall, I went to the Apple app, right? So they have an App Store app, and then I just clicked on the new iPhone, set the specs I want. Since I'm already signed in, I just clicked add to bag, check out, and that was it. I don't know what this process would have been 10 years ago, but I didn't have to select really any additional information. It automatically recognized my carrier as well. So when I got my phone, the eSIM was already provisioned. I just had to put my PIN in, and the whole setup process was seamless. But it all just ties back to that customer experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I can tell you what the process was 10 years ago. It was terrible. You have to pull out your credit card and enter it in. It was awful. And it's a million times better than it was before. But that's become now people's expectation.
I saw a YouTube video, and this is half off topic, but it was, I think the guy was Casey Neistat, I want to say, on YouTube, vlogger in New York City. But he did a video on buying the first iPhone in 2007. And I recall he had a giant phone book size receipt with that too. So we've really come a long ways.
Killing less trees, making it a better purchase process. It's a win-win for everybody.
Oh, well, that data usage on those smartphones back in 2007 evidently was a big shift.
Yeah, no doubt.
Last one here, Gabe.
Yeah, last one. Yeah,
and this is one I like just for the podcast. The example I've been using is I've been looking to buy a drone, right? I've been looking at different DJI models just to take photos, videos, things like that out on hikes. And one of the things I've been doing is I've been going to Amazon. And I've been looking at photos because I want to see if this is something I can put in my hiking pack and not take up that much room. So I've been going to Amazon. I've been looking at photos. I've been reading reviews. But I've always said that people like to buy from people. We mentioned that with your hat. But I want to see what experiences everyone else has. And to go with this too, not only am I looking at Amazon reviews and Amazon photos, but I also went to Reddit and I typed in DJI Air 3 hiking. Reddit and just to see what the experiences of other people buying this product have been.
Yeah, it's I know we've talked about social proof before, and obviously those reviews and testimonials, getting them on your website is so important because, as you said, people like to buy from people. The Amazon reviews, I think, is a perfect example. I do the same thing. Whether if I'm making really any sort of purchase of a certain dollar value, I'm going to go through and read the reviews to make sure that it's of reasonably high quality, right? And I'm with you. I love the pictures of how people use it, especially if it's like a large physical item. It's buying stuff for the kids' room or whatever I happen to be buying on Amazon. Having an understanding of what it's actually going to look like in a space, very, very, very helpful. Those I think that extension of allowing people to upload pictures into the Amazon reviews was really brilliant by them.
I wish every website had that. I just love to see people's photos of different products. Occasionally you'll get like the negative review too, and then you have to start to think, is this like the odd one out, or is this going to be a common theme with this product? But I think for the most part it's all valuable. It's on Google as well, right? You can go to Google, Yelp, different review sites like this. People can upload their photos, and you can get a sense of the product, a sense of the business as well. Yeah, I think of like when I travel, like if you like type in like a restaurant, you can see like photos of the restaurant, and like some people like have like the menus too. But oh my gosh, I'm a big fan of social proof. No matter what.
The Google Pictures is another great example, and I same with food for sure. Definitely want to see what the food looks like before I'm gonna make a decision to go to that restaurant or not. So I'm totally with you on that. The other thing is on the Google side specifically, they really want you to upload pictures, and they reward you as a business when people actually upload photos about your business. So it's going to help with SEO and some of these other things that, maybe SEO is dead. We were exchanging some hilarious tweets about that earlier, Zach. But provided that SEO is not dead, having Google Images or having images uploaded to your Google My Business profile is a win, especially when they're user generated, not company generated.
I feel like you just brought up a good point, because I do this all the time, having managed Google listings in the past. As a consumer, if you're going to a business and the only photo of the business is a street view image, to me, I'm like, I don't know about this place, and I might continue looking. I've done this before, then I get another business that has 100 photos, and I'm like, okay, this place is reputable. I'm going to buy from them. I'm going to eat there. But if Google has that street view image and that's all you have on your Google listing, that's a problem.
I agree. It feels like a massive red flag.
Oh, gosh. Well, Gabe, I enjoyed this conversation today on conversions. I think there's a lot of great takeaways from this.
Yeah, it was a fun one. I think it's one that, we probably just don't talk about enough. And it's such small percentages can have really meaningful impacts here for a business, because generally you do see, hopefully you're seeing a lot of traffic being driven to your website, but if you're not seeing those conversions, and however you define that, is a great opportunity to take maybe a little bit of a step back, figure out, okay, what conversion do I want to drive for people that are coming to my site? How do I want to drive them through the funnel? And start to either create some landing pages or just make some tweaks to your website to ultimately drive up those conversions. So we certainly hope everyone found this helpful. Zach, I'll let you do the official outro of the follow, like, subscribe, all those sorts of things. I feel like you've got that down.
I don't think we have an official outro. It's basically me just putting on my podcast voice and reminding everyone to give us a follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or whichever favorite podcast app you're using. I know it's not Google Podcast, because evidently that has been shut down. And on a closing tangent, I actually had a friend tell me they use YouTube Music, and I had to think about that for a while, because out of everyone I've ever talked to, whether it's music, podcast, or whatever, I've never heard anyone say they use a Google platform, which is why evidently one has been shut down. But again, hopefully everyone's on Spotify, podcasts, or whichever favorite podcast app you have. And as always, we've got the YouTube video as well. And Gabe has the blog now too, so I don't want to forget that.
Yes, indeed. Don't forget to sign up for the blog.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back next week with a new episode.